Welcome, it is Mitch. I am on YouTube. Please, as always, click subscribe, like the video, leave a comment. You don't like it, click the dislike button. Any interaction, I'll take it. I'm trying to build this thing from the ground up. I say it at the start of almost every video, trying to build this thing from the ground up, so appreciate any interaction with the videos. Packers talk again today. Final thoughts. Final thoughts before week one in Brazil. Packers taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Standalone game on Peacock. National spotlight, primetime game for the Packers to get their 2024 campaign going. Just one more day. Sort of feels like Christmas Eve for a lot of people out there, myself included. Have you ever seen for people who have seen The Office before, the Creed Bratton clip or GIF where Pam's like 1 week away from coming back to Scranton after being in New York for so long, and Creed creepily walks up to Jim Halpert and starts massaging his shoulders, and he's like, one more week, and Jim very uncomfortably looks at the camera. If I worked in an office setting, I'd be walking up to everyone just saying, one more day. Thankfully for everyone, I work remote for my full-time job, but it's one more day, just one more day until the season opener. And I'm gonna go into this game trying to just not overreact one way or another. Win, lose, draw, offense, defense, special teams, however the pie gets sliced up. I'm going to try not to overreact, but I will give you this one caveat for this game, and that is if the offense looks incredible, if the offense looks average, if the offense looks poor, I think I'll be able to remain pretty level-headed about things, no matter how it goes for Jordan Love and company on the offensive side of the ball, barring something crazy like they get shut out or they put up 50+, then I will definitely overreact one way or the other. But by and large, if it's really good, if it's average, if it's not so good at all, I'll be fine with the offense, and I'll be able to chalk it up to, it's just one game, 1 of 17 against a good Philadelphia team, a stout defense, Vic Fangio now leading the charge as the DC for Philly. However, the caveat, if the defense looks average, if the defense looks not so great on Friday night against the Eagles, I won't put any stock into it. But if this defense comes out, and if they look lights out, and if they suffocate Philadelphia, someone's going to have to try to talk some logic into me. If this defense displays greatness on Friday night against Philadelphia in week one, it will be tough to talk me down, and it'll be tough for my mind not to wander off and think about the possibilities for this team if the defense dazzles in Brazil. I am beyond amped up to see Jeff Hafley's squad, to see his bunch out there flying around defensively in Brazil. Green Bay's base defense had been the 3-4 for over a decade. Now it's the 4-3. You can go back one defensive coordinator after another, Joe Barry, Mike Pettin. You can keep peeling back those layers on the onion and do defensive coordinators of years past for Green Bay. For over 10 years, the base has been a 3-4. Now you switch it to a 4-3. And we've heard all offseason from the players themselves how it's going to be an aggressive group, how it's going to be an opportunistic group, and how they're going, a couple of them have mentioned, it's just flying around. I think, who was it? Someone mentioned, at times, coach doesn't even want us to think. He just wants us, flying around on the field. And I'm very, very excited to see that defense in action. And I've always been and always will be of this mindset. Give me a defense that's too aggressive. Give me a defense that takes too many risks compared to the defense that is passive and plays not to lose instead of playing to win. I can't stand a defense that plays not to lose, that plays hesitant, that doesn't take risk. And, they have to be calculated, and they have to be well-timed risk. I don't want Hafley sending the house every single play on Jalen Hurts and company. Eventually, that's going to bite you in the rear end. But I'm sick and tired of seeing a defense that plays hesitant. I won't say plays scared, but plays hesitant, plays passive, doesn't take many risks, is too afraid of giving up the big play. Give me the defense that'll give up the big play once in a while, but that's aggressive, that's running to the ball, that's taking those risks defensively. I'll sign up for that 10 times out of 10, opposed to the other side of the coin, where it's a very laissez-faire defense that can get a little gun shy once in a while to try to make the big play. And I feel like we've seen that too many times in years past with Green Bay defenses. And I hope it's a new chapter. I hope it's a new page with Jeff Hafley. And it sounds like it. But, training camp, preseason are one thing, and everything's going to be hyped up. Things can be overanalyzed. Now we get the real thing on Friday night, and we see it in action in a game that matters. 1 of 17 in the regular season. And I'm very, very excited and interested to see how that side of the ball looks. Because I had grown agitated with looking across the board on Green Bay's defense in years past, and I see Jair Alexander, I see Rashawn Gary, I see Kenny Clark, I see Preston Smith, when Rasul Douglas was CB2 for Green Bay. Guys who have that motor and have that desire to want to be aggressive. Rasul Douglas, when he was in Green Bay, was a corner that wanted to get in your face, and he'd jaw back and forth with opposing wide receivers, and he'd want to take those risks. Jair's the same way. And Green Bay's formula just didn't allow it as much as we, or at least I, would have liked to see. And I think, I hope, I believe it's a new page and a new day for Green Bay's defense under Coach Hafley, who, of course, comes over from Boston College. I don't want another defense that reads and reacts to the offense and just lets the opposing offense, move the pieces on the chessboard any way they want. I want a defense that's going to set the tone, not just go with the flow. Set the tone yourselves and make that opposing offense read and react to what you're doing. That's what I hope for with Coach Hafley's group. They have the pieces. And I cannot emphasize enough how confident I feel saying that with the pieces that were already in place, and now the additions at safety, and I point out safety because I think it's been a weaker point on the defense in the past couple of years, but the additions of Xavier McKinney, the best safety on the free agent market, Green Bay swung big, they hit a home run, X-Man's now Packer in the green and gold, and the draft picks, specifically of Javon Bullard and of Evan Williams. It's a revamped group at safety, and I think those additions with what is already in place, a lot of veteran leadership, a lot of proven veterans on that side of the ball for Coach Hafley to work with, I feel confident about Green Bay's defense. Just let it rip. Let them fly. And it starts in this one against Philadelphia on a national spotlight. And can we, by the way, Mitch, I am on YouTube. Subscribe, leave a comment, like the video, please interact. Appreciate all the support as we try to build this thing up. Can we talk about Philly for a moment? This is Packers-Eagles final thoughts. Let's go to that side. And by that side, I don't mean just the offense. I mean the team as a whole. Let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. Are we sure they fixed things? Are we sure? Are we sure they're going to be in the thick of things in the NFC this year? Feel good about saying that? You feel confident? Whether you're an Eagles fan or not? You look around the landscape of the NFC, a lot of people are like, San Francisco's obviously going to be there. A lot of people are like, hey, Detroit's going to be there. A lot of people saying Green Bay should be in that hunt. Some are more hesitant to put Dallas into that group, and Philly, a lot of people putting them right back in that group with San Francisco, Detroit, and potentially Green Bay. What do you make of that? What do you think about this Philadelphia team? Because the end of last year was a colossal disaster. Their solution was, let's fire the OC, let's fire the DC, bring in fresh faces to run the show on offense and to run the show on defense. Different guys steering the ship in those departments for the Eagles. That was their solution. That's the fix for them. And we'll see, not just in this game, but throughout the course of the season, we'll see if that's all Philadelphia needed to figure things out. Nick Sirianni stayed put as the head coach. But does replacing the OC and the DC, does that solve the riddle for the Eagles? Green Bay finished the season, and when I say finish the season, I'm not just talking about the 49ers game. I'm talking about like the last 2.5 months. November, December, going into January, going into Dallas, and beating down the Cowboys in the playoffs. Another national game, of course, obviously in the postseason. Green Bay finished the season in those last 2.5 months red hot, and there's a case to be made Jordan Love was the best quarterback in the league those last 2 months. Philadelphia looked terrible to end the season. Colossal disaster, I think is how I just described it. It was that. And the cherry on top was an embarrassing playoff performance where they basically went through the motions and got curb stomped by Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on their way out to end their season. And I still believe that Philadelphia has the talent. But we know in this league, man, talent alone doesn't get the job done. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. Because they have a lot of talent. But this is two teams in week one that couldn't have finished last season going more in different directions. Now, if you want to be cynical about it, you can say, well, Green Bay finished the season with a loss and Philadelphia finished the season with a loss. Neither of them won the Super Bowl. That's fine. I'm choosing to zoom out that microscope and look at the last 2 months where teams that were popping up on the schedule for Green Bay felt good about it, no matter who it was. You look at a win against the Chiefs. You look at going to Detroit and winning on Thanksgiving, closing things out against the Bears, who, of course, didn't make the playoffs, but a division rival to get to the playoffs. And then the Dallas game just had everyone, wide-eyed, like, oh, my gosh, Green Bay's here. Jordan Love appears to have figured it out. This is scary for the rest of the NFL going forward, and especially the NFC and the NFC North. Philly was a dud, a deflating balloon to finish the season. It was horrible. For them and their fans, they would hope, new season, a new start. I get all that, and I mentioned they have the talent. And I get Kellen Moore should be an upgrade at the controls for the offense. Same can be said for Vic Fangio on the defensive side. As a Packers fan, I'm banking in on the idea that, hey, they have a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator. Obviously, they've been at work all summer long, figuring things out, getting a rhythm, getting a pattern down, what those coaches like to do, the tendencies, what they're going to install. I'm banking in on that taking time to sort of mature, to sort of mold together for Philadelphia. And I'm telling myself, you know what? The Packers are getting the Eagles at a good time. A lot of coaching turnover. The roster in large part is still intact from last year. The big loss, Jason Kelce retiring at center, and that is a huge, huge loss that can't go unstated. But the big changes for Philadelphia in the offseason came in the coaching departments, OC and DC. Those are big. You're talking about new schemes, new game plans. I mentioned coaching tendencies, what Kellen Moore wants to do, what Vic Fangio wants to do. And I'm telling myself, you know what? To try to warp my mind from a Packers perspective, it's going to take Philadelphia time. I would be shocked if they came out and the offense, defense were just lights out for Philadelphia against a good, solid Green Bay team, but also with new two coordinators in place. And that's what I keep trying to tell myself. It's going to take time for it to kind of come to fruition for the Eagles, and that the Packers are getting them at a solid time week one right out of the gates. Regardless of how it all unravels, there's going to be overreactions. Just told you to lead this thing off. I'm going to try myself not to do it. I'm going to keep telling myself not to. But if the defense is A+++ for Green Bay, it's going to be hard for me not to overreact. Offense, I think I'll be fine regardless of how it looks. But there's going to be overreactions because this is the only NFL game on Friday night. It's the second game out of the gates after the Thursday night game, which is later on tonight. Second one of the season. Everyone's going to be watching it. It's like, have you seen Florida State the first 2 weeks, college football? I'll make this comparison. Florida State's 0-2 to start the year. Top 10 team. Top 10 team in college football. Went undefeated in the regular season last year. Thought they were snubbed from the college football playoff. A lot of their guys sat out for their bowl game against Georgia. They got absolutely blown out. Came back this year, chip on the shoulder. A lot of new faces. At positions for Florida State for head coach Mike Norvell and the Seminoles. And top 10 team, though. Number 10 team, to be exact, to start the season. They lose in, where was it? Was that in London? They lose overseas playing to Georgia Tech in week one on a game-winning field goal as time expired. And you're like, hey, you know what? A lot of people are high on Haynes King and the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Tough loss for Florida State, but new expanded college football playoff, 12 teams, not 4. One loss isn't going to kill you. It's not going to end your season. Florida State followed that up, lost to Boston College in week 2. Why am I bringing it up? Week 1, Georgia Tech, Florida State game was the only game on at that time. It was a week 0 game, the only game on. I think it was on ESPN. Their week 1 game then, that they just lost to Boston College, standalone game, was a Monday night on ESPN, the only college football game on. Had Florida State started the season 0-2 with losses at Georgia Tech and Boston College, people still, the alarms are going off. People are still taking notice of it. The fact that both of them were on national TV and that they were the only college football games going on at that time has elevated and magnified this times 1,000. So Green Bay, Philadelphia being a standalone game on Peacock, on NBC if you're in a local market, people are going to overreact one way or another. I'm trying to tell myself, don't do it. Just don't. Just enjoy it. Soak it in. Let's see a Packers victory. I believe at last look they were 3-point underdogs, so they're expecting a close one. One more day. One more day. Feels like Christmas Eve. Please make sure to subscribe. Mitch, I am on YouTube. Go Pack. We'll see you next time.